Welcome back to Navigating Neva. This is your host, Neva Nicole, with Wesley King.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here again.
So, we are glad to have you back, and all of our technical difficulties have been fixed, and we should have a great episode tonight, all the way to the end. And if you guys are just joining us, I wanted to give you a quick review or recap. First, I will let you know that tonight is Beyond Lifeguarding. What's next? We're going to talk about our lifeguard pathways. And if you're just joining us, if you go back to the beginning of the series, we introduced you to lifeguarding. So if you wonder where you can go to get certified, who, how, what, when, all of those questions we get at the front desk, we answer them there for you. Episode 2 was talking about the swim test. So if you guys are interested in all the details about that, we share those with you. And episode 3 was your work environments. And last week we talked about lifeguard duties versus management.
Great recap, Nicole. And to that point, if you've listened to them, but your boss has it, or your teammates have it, or you're starting to plan this summer and you're trying to figure out which organization to be with, or you're trying to figure out how to stay planned for in-services, and you just go back and re-listen to them or have your team re-listen to them, there's a lot of great content, especially with the visuals that you've made, and not to forget the prizes and the surveys. But to your point, it flows really well to somebody that hasn't listened to it yet to build onto it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking to a 4-H director and she said something, and I said, "You should listen to my podcast. It answers every single question." She was talking about waterfront and couldn't figure out the different. And I'm like, you know what? We answered everything that you want to know and more.
In less than like 25 minutes, I think, too.
It was an under 30-minute podcast you can play.
That's a
Yeah,
record for us.
that is a record. So what are some fun facts we have about this week?
Yeah, absolutely. So last week we mentioned Jimmy Stewart, the actor of It's a Wonderful Life. George Bailey, my all-time favorite movie, was a lifeguard. And also you did some research, and to lead off with a bang here, Ronald Reagan was a lifeguard. Eureka, Illinois. I'm from East Peoria, Illinois, and Eureka, Illinois is right near that. And I believe that's where he went to school, college. So the actor and President Ronald Reagan was a lifeguard. So that's exciting.
And a fun fact is he had 77 saves during his lifeguarding career.
That is fantastic. Wow, I did not know that number. We should put that on his plaque at Eureka, Illinois. Well done. And the next one is Ed Harris, but not the actor Ed Harris from the movie The Rock and Milk Money, right? It's a different Ed Harris.
It is. It is the San Diego City Councilman.
Absolutely, right? So taking different plot, and then Jose Acevedo we have, who, what's his role, Nicole?
He is the CEO of UR Medicine at Finger Lakes Health.
Fantastic. So again, taking the career into the medical field, right? You start doing CPR
He
and
does.
you can
He
go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
he actually accredits his leadership to developing his safety focus and leadership from his lifeguarding days.
And we're going to get into that too as the team building. And a guy like Pete Evans, would you say the Australian paramedic? And we've got some Australian connections too.
We did. I thought that was ironic. Did you like that?
Right. Well done. I hope Phil is listening
This one
from
was for you,
Splash.
Phil. Yeah.
There we go. Well done.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to move on into the good stuff tonight. So, where lifeguarding can take you. I mean, I thought it just got me out of the fast food joint and up on the stand where I felt elite. But I guess we can go even further with this, huh?
We can. And real quick, I know we talked about this in our prep. One of the things we don't have up here is the field of education. We know that if you're a teacher, you can teach, right, Nicole? If you can teach swim lessons, if you can teach somebody how to do a rescue, you can teach. And that takes you into all kinds of field of education, from PE to early childhood. So we kind of acknowledge that, but wanted to dive into a more medically based field, more coaching fields, et cetera. Yeah, Nicole?
Yeah, well, I think we kind of thought the education was a given. We just wanted to show
Fair.
you where else the path could take you.
Right. And so I didn't want all the teachers out there to yell at us and say, we're not on your map. You
Right, but
are.
you
Don't
can yell
worry.
at us. If you give us any feedback online, we appreciate it. And if you know, I wanted to say, if you know of more people who started out as lifeguards, that is a
Yes.
fun fact that I love, whether I'm doing in-service training or lifeguarding. I love to know. I wish I had a like a book of everybody that started as
Ab-
a lifeguard.
Absolutely. And they should take more credit. So, but to that point, it can lead you in all different fields from coaching to medical to leadership. and really build a step-by-step career from how you start looking at your major in college to what you graduate with and so on. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always sat on the guard stand and wondered what I could be when I grew up. And there was a rehab guy that would come in on Saturday mornings and 2 days a week. And I thought his job was really cool, and that's where I thought I was going to go.
You know, you mentioned that sitting in a pool, you hear of all kinds of it from being a nurse. My mom was a nurse in labor and delivery to mechanical engineering. As a lifeguard, you have to figure out a pump room sometimes. So you really don't think about it, like you said, until you're in that chair and see somebody doing rehab or see somebody, fixing something. So, and then here on this slide, this is an excellent breakdown of not only the fields, but the specific job types within those fields.
Yeah, and we're going to stay here for a minute. And if you guys are listening on Spotify and you don't have the visual, this is another one of our good visuals that if you go to our show notes or contact me, you can get this cool visual. I don't know what you do with it, but it's nice.
Well, what I like about it is whether you're 16 or 56, you can look at it and say, where do I go once I'm certified, right? That's the whole point of this specific episode.
Yeah.
And you have a lifeguard certification or you're thinking about it and you don't know what to do with it. Well, what's next? Do I like being in the water? Can I teach further? Can I teach physical therapy? Do I like being out of the water and scanning? Can I observe from the deck? Can I understand risk? And so, really, it takes your passion from starting in that chair and builds out kind of, if you will, a life plan almost, right? What do I have to go to school for? What do I have to learn? And so, Nicole, I think there's some great jobs within here that you do yourself. Yes.
Some I do myself. Yeah. Yeah. And then there's some that I haven't done, but when you're a lifeguard, you definitely think about them. Like I was just thinking, for example, we just updated our chemical feeders. And
Oh, sure.
somebody that's not on here, but like you could do that. You could design a new one. And
Right.
my son just sent me a Tesla pool vacuum that is
Ha.
obviously really cool. But I mean, that is something, well, we've got innovation and design, but those are things that are needed. And as a lifeguard, you sit there and you're like, how could I make this better?
Well, and you mentioned that the things we put our hands on as lifeguards, from the rescue tube to the fanny pack to the seal mask, all of those are made by somebody. All of those have to be cleaned. So if you're somebody who loves using your hands, I always, when I break up the teams during our cleaning duties or closing duties, who likes to get dirty? I want to brush stuff off. I want to clean stuff. Great. Who likes to organize stuff? Great. Well, all of the jobs listed on this chart have a piece of those personalities, from facility management to safety. On the other side, who likes to see things done in an organized fashion? Competitive coaching. Who likes to blow their whistle? Right? So it really allows somebody to understand that this certification isn't just getting out of the fast food industry, if you will. No insults to the fast food. I love Chick-fil-A, and they are some of the best trained employees ever, but it gets you out of that and puts you in a real career path that a 16-year-old or 65-year-old may not have always thought about beyond that original certification.
Yeah. Well, let's go down the list just so we can talk about them with everybody. And then we also mentioned that Wes knows people as a consultant. So he could probably throw out names there that you guys could consider applying for or working for, or maybe opening up a business to be their competitor. So the first category we have is health and therapy, which I think we already touched on this, but water physical therapy or occupational therapy. Those are big ones in the health and therapy field that rent pool space or come and utilize your pool or have a pool at the hospital just for it.
And when you think of therapy, that's not just pre-hab, post-hab. There's a lot of modalities, and the reference I would give there, Nicole, the name drop I would give is the Medical Fitness Association, MFA, Medical Fitness Association. It's basically the idea of exercise is science. Dr. Edward Phillips, and walking is health, activity is health, and physical therapy, pre-rehab is part of that. Cardiac rehab, all of those things are benefited in a pool. And so knowing how those services work in your pool or wanting to be a part of them is a great pathway.
Yes,
Medical Fitness Association for sure.
they are. Next on our list is swim instruction and coaching, which some of you could do right now as a lifeguard, but you could actually make a career out of it.
I mean, we're kind of there's. I think somebody who hosts this podcast may or may not be doing that as we
I
speak.
I
Yes.
I do. I do. I do. I've never gotten into the competitive coaching because I'm just not that competitive, but I do know really good coaches. I do have a swim school and write swim curriculum.
Well, and I think it's a great moniker. One, you're underselling. You have Joyful Waters, Amazon. She's not going to tell her story like she should, but I will go on to buy the product. But what I also love about what you just said is, Nicole, you identified what you love.
I
If
did.
you're listening to this, that's another takeaway here. Nicole just said it without a blink of an eye. She doesn't love coaching competitive, but that's okay. It doesn't mean you couldn't yourself, and it doesn't mean that when you do love coaching competitive that you can't grow and you can't learn more and you can't get additional certifications and you can't work with the masters teams and all that because that's what you love. And I think that's another thing about advancing from the lifeguarding. What else do you love about this industry and how can we help you get there?
Yeah, to add on to that, the competitive coaches that I know, they love it so much. They do it with their second job and they've done it.
Yeah.
We're a small town, so we don't have big competitor coaches, but it's their second job or their side hustle, and they've done it longer than I've
For
been alive, and
years.
some have done it since I've known them. They're not going to put it down. They
It's
adore that.
6 a.m. and nine
They're on the
o'clock at
deck.
night and cold water. I mean, they're hardcore and that we support it. And I think again the message is it may have just started from lifeguard. It may have just started from a basic frontline job like this. So yeah.
I did. So the next one is business opportunities. So if you're at a pool, you probably see swim lessons. And in South Florida, all of Florida, there are tons of
Hmm.
swim schools. In Georgia, there's swim schools everywhere. And then throughout the nation, you can even franchise swim schools, or you can open your own swim school.
And there's lifeguard training program schools as well, lifeguard curriculums, lifeguard certifications. I shouldn't say lifeguard schools in the same
Right.
analogy, but very similar modalities of we can bring lifeguarding to you. And
You can
in the
make a business out of it. It's your business.
bingo. And going back to the swim schools, they're across the country. And if you look at the franchise model that's been happening over the last decade versus the previous model where it was part of a larger system, if you have a lifeguard certification and you know of swim lessons that are happening, who it's going to be very beneficial for you to show how much safer that pool is with you as a lifeguard. Let's just put it that way. You can make a great argument if you observe private, group, franchise, any type of swim curriculum happening without a lifeguard present.
Yeah,
So there's your business opportunity. Put
there's your
yourself in a
business.
position to make
Yeah.
things safer.
The other one is running a pool maintenance. Again, in Georgia, we have tons of those. Florida has even more. Texas has a whole lot. But
Mm-hmm.
you start as a lifeguard and you see somebody testing the chemicals and you don't even know what they're doing, and then you're doing it. If you don't like being in the water, those are great business or money makers. At
Uh,
least down here.
yeah, and I'll say professionally and personally, I think that is one of the most unrecognized transitions is the certified pool operator certification or the AFO or the CF or the CPO. What I mean by that, it's undervalued. If you think of Moneyball and base hits and sabermetrics and finding the missing gap, if you're able and you've got 2 or 3 days and you can read a book and you can follow along in a class, you can earn your certified pool operator's license certification. It doesn't mean you should be running mountainous properties, but it means exactly what Nicole said. Tomorrow I can sit in that chair and understand why the pool is green. Yesterday I could not. In a week I can tell you how to fix it because the certified pool operator program uh, overall is designed to teach you, not to trick you, not to fail you, not to manipulate. It's designed to educate you. So I think that's a very underserved transition of going from a lifeguard to earning that certified pool operator uh, uh, training because it's not complicated. It's 15 or 18 hours online and tons of people of quality. Rudy Stankiewicz, Tim Auerhahn, the Aquatic Council, I can name more, offer quality services. So again, that's my plug for those of you that don't want to get in the water and teach some lessons. For those of you that don't love 3-year-olds screaming at you, blah, blah, blah. The certified pool operator, CPO, AFO training is a great way to continue in this industry in a certified fashion, but not having to teach in some capacity.
Yeah, which is, I mean, I've always looked at those guys and I know they're tired of listening to the lap swimmers complain with the water aerobics attendees,
Yeah.
which takes us into facility maintenance. If you are at a facility with your CF, your AFO or your CPO, you can be pretty behind the scenes too. You're usually not the director. You're doing the behind the scenes work, and we appreciate you because I know I adore every one of mine because they are the backbone to my programs
Oh,
being able to function.
whether your name is Keith or not, I call them all Keith because they're old and just grizzled and veteran and they know what they're doing. And Nicole knows this is truth. So if you have a Keith, appreciate him or her for sure. And second, you're absolutely right. Whether you make a career out of it or not, if you can turn to a lap swimmer and say, "This is why the pool has to be 86 degrees," I understand there's condensation. Or you could turn to an AEA member or an AAA, arthritis aquatics class member, and say the pool water has to be this cold or this warm. Or you can give some context as to why the water's a little cloudy but still safe to swim in, right?
Right.
Those are all things that make you as a lifeguard more valuable, which makes your career more achievable.
My son just made the lateral move from a lifeguard to maintenance.
Very good. See, suit versus suit, right? What did we talk about earlier? Swimsuit versus
Yes.
your work suit. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, he went
yeah,
straight from lifeguarding to now the first hour he's there every morning he tends to the pool. So it's kind of it's ironic.
yeah. Beautiful. Well done.
Innovation and design, which this is one of my favorites because who doesn't want something new and shiny under the tree that year, like a brand new bike? So I love when we see new facility designs or play features. These have always been something that I can't wait to seek them out.
And how, when you get a new property or new feature, what is your approach to it? Do you market it? Do you challenge it? Do you try to do different things with it, such as a mushroom, such as a lazy river? What do you do with those type of things?
What do I do with them?
Yeah, I
I,
mean, do you get, yeah,
I like to challenge them.
there we go.
We have a mushroom where we are, and
Yeah,
we have a slide and its own plunge pool, and I that's been there since my son was born. So I was like, if we could get rid of that, because it's cool, but it's not now everybody has one. And I'm like, we could put something else in that area right there instead of
sure.
redoing the slide or redoing the pump or redoing the plumbing. I was like, why don't we just swap something out at this? But our kiddie pool is not a 1990s or 1980s kiddie pool. So the kiddie pool still is great and it brings, all the babies
Sure.
and toddlers in there, which is cool. The slide just gets kind of,
But that's, and again, you didn't know I was going to ask you that, but I'm glad you answered the way you did because I think that's some people just skip over that. Some people don't really try to maximize what they have. And so it
hmm
makes it harder to get a bid, a grant, an underwriting for the new thing.
Yeah.
But if you can show how are you going to use a new thing, how are you going to keep the new thing safe, how
hmm
are you going to market the new thing, then it makes it easier to get affordable. It makes it easier to get an architect in there. So again, I wasn't trying to trick you. It was just more so the audience can hear is it's okay to challenge a new product. It's okay to put yourself out there and say, how would we use it if we had it, etc.
That is a great one. And this, I assume, correct me if I'm wrong, would fall under innovation and design. I didn't even put architect down here. My cousin's a landscape architect, and every time we got a new pool build, whose office am I in?
A landscape, because the pool is only as pretty as the bushes and the garden around it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No,
and and I
ooh,
and I'm not being cheeky. I have seen beautifully clean, immaculate, well-run water and fences and concrete, but the yard around it, or the park around it,
the
or the
oasis. You got to pull it all
around it
in.
was a disaster.
Yeah.
And so nobody swam in it. On the
Mhm.
opposite, I have seen properties and golf clubs and HOAs that are gorgeous landscape, and the bottom of the pool would have failed the VGB before you got to the parking lot.
So
So,
we didn't talk about this beforehand, but what would be really neat if we in the future we could have guests come on that tell us about facilities they had that failed. Because we had one here that I thought was really cool, but for some reason it failed. But I would love to hear like under
yeah.
landscape, like these places that opened and then they just kind of disappeared.
Well, and that's where I go back to how do you use the new shiny product? And challenge is a great word. Is I'm going to challenge the wind. I'm going to challenge the test. I'm going to challenge the salt. I'm going to challenge the groundwater. so that in 10 years from now, this massive investment is sustainable. And that's where the architecture comes in. And we're getting 8 layers deep, all on lifeguarding, right? Just in the last
We
three
are.
minutes, I was like, oh my gosh, I hope everybody likes the insider baseball, right? The insider, we're talking because that's what you start as in the chair. You
You
sit
do.
there and you look at people slip on the corner. You watch, how
Hmm.
come there's no zero depth entry, blah, 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 because grew up on these types of environments.
That's right. So the
So,
next one brings us to one of Wes's favorite is the sports field. But we're not talking about baseball. We're talking about Olympics and divers and water polo. And then coaching at national levels or pre-Olympics kind of
and that
stuff.
you hit the nail on the head. And so I say the head, part of designing a pool is, are you going to have a split head pool where it's a 25 to 50 meter pool, right? We know Jamal Hill, our Paralympic friend, and the pools he travels to, how deep is it? Can I get my practice in? What type of events can I hold? And then to your point, if I have a real Olympic sized pool, and there's always those memes about the worst job in the world to be a lifeguard to the Olympics. Well, you know stories, and we know stories about real things that have happened and underwater hypoxia, and our friend Britt Jackson and other people. We know there's real different challenges
Yes.
in an Olympic pool and the use of that versus a community pool, and the design of it, the architecture of it, the water, all of those things started with safety, and safety starts sometimes and should start with lifeguarding. So, not to go off the deep end there, pun intended, but that's a whole nother level of management and practices with those deep waters and that deep water training in there.
That would. And that brings me to a good segue. Next weekend, we're doing a roundtable and we're going to have two guests with us. So we're not going to have a slideshow. We're going to have four people you get to listen to talk. But after that, it would be interesting if we could do people from each venue, like one from an Olympic and one from a water park or one from a water park, and just to hear more like a roundtable discussion for people to go, where do I want to guard at? Because it's
Hmm.
different everywhere you go.
And even the environment of understanding let's go backwards from that Olympic space all the way to that smaller pool space. You can be in a lifeguard chair in all of them and all have the same responsibility, like we've talked about in the last 3 episodes, but how it's reenacted and how it's relayed is all about the team, which I know we're going to talk about in a minute, and how lifeguards make good teammates.
Good segue. So, the last one here before we go to the next slide, we've been here for a hot minute, is marketing and business design. And this can be anything that you guys enjoy doing in technology. So whether you're a social media online, you're managing someone's online presence, or you're marketing a swim school, or you're marketing a new pool,
Hmm.
or the summer camp, well, not the summer camp, the place below us, they do a whole lot with their center where they market it for the year. They're like a mini water park owned by a city. So
There we go.
they do that every season.
Tell your story, right? Um, when if you think of the movie Field of Dreams, and you think of the end of the movie, when you see all the car headlights coming, if you build it, they will come. The image is the baseball field. If every small town in America, the image was the lifeguard and the lifeguard stand, and that's what the town saw. Nicole's laughing at me, but she knows I picture this in my head at night. But if that's what they saw, and you told the story of your town's lifeguards and your town's safety and your town's training and all the efforts, your town is going to buy into your pool a lot more than they do when it's hot and sweaty and they're annoyed and they're just mad and they're waiting in line. So tell the story of your town and your lifeguard and your safety.
Absolutely. That brings us to our next slide, which is talking about taking it to the next level. So you're just a guard and you're in the guard stand. How do you get out of that suit into the next suit?
Suit versus suit, right?
Right.
Am I thinking as a lifeguard? And Nicole, you probably heard this too. It's got to be this way, and the Red Cross says it this way, and it has to do this way. That's your swimsuit. Also, you're a business owner, Nicole, and have several things happening, including a nonprofit and the podcast and all these other things. You're a business owner, and sometimes you have people you're accountable to. The bottom line, the board, a county law. So, what suit are you thinking from, your swimsuit or your business suit? And the slides are great here, Nicole. Yeah, take it away from the wording here.
Okay. So we've got leadership in aquatics. Leadership in aquatics can lead to broader career opportunities. Your lifeguarding traits, decision making, and responsibility and crisis management. Um, I don't know a better person to, I don't know a better job to leave as a high schooler and have really good crisis management than controlling a crowd in the summer at the pool.
Check. Right. I just did that SISM training. They call it psychological first aid, um, critical incident stress management, and all of those things could be deemed critical incidents at times if you're not prepared for them. Yeah, from day one.
Yeah. Lifeguarding also instills in us confidence and a service mindset, which you need if you're going to have a successful business, which translates into your professional success.
Absolutely. And that ties us back. We talked about starting as a lifeguard and how the individual jobs you can take and the career paths you can take. But one of the things I think we really could take a minute on is you can't be a good lifeguard if you're not a good teammate. Um, you can't be a good lifeguard if you can't lead and follow in a crisis. Nicole, you and I talk a lot of this a lot when we talk to the people we work with and the organizations we work with about are we leading right now or are we following from the swim lesson curriculum to the emergency crisis? And I say that to say this, we only often think about ourselves in the chair by ourselves.
We do.
But when an emergency happens, or when we have to rotate, or we have to go home, somebody else is in that chair. And I think if it's not now for these 2 minutes, if you want to hire me to do one of my workshops, I have a thing called Leadership in 22 Seconds, where Kobe Bryant passed the ball to Shaquille O'Neal, and then they won 3 championships in a row, right? Nicole has a ton of books and training on swim instruction and how to be a great swimming lesson instructor to be the next swimming lesson instructor. The point is, it comes down to knowing how to be part of a team when you're in that chair and when you're not in that chair.
Yeah, and my favorite thing to tell everybody, usually in swim lessons, I say it, but I say set yourself up for success. So, I mean, I think lifeguards do that all the time with our training. The reason we're training and doing in service is so that in crisis we respond good. But I don't know how many people realize it's almost like picking the short straw. You never know where it's going to happen, so you don't
Right.
know who is going to be the lead. And I don't think there's any other game plan that goes where you don't know. Well, I guess, you don't know who's going to catch the ball. So, but
It,
but you've got, players that
yeah,
are good at what they're good at. In a lifeguarding, wherever it happens, it could have happened in the locker room, the hallway, the pool deck, the shallow end, the deep end. So whoever it is, tap almost like duck, duck, go. What is that what
yeah,
it's called? Duck, duck, go.
Duck Duck Goose. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. You're spot on. So my father's a national sports official, college basketball, minor league baseball, and I officiated for a decade, if not more. And one of the things we learned as a basketball official and baseball is there's only one ball. In baseball, the play is going to happen where the ball goes. I know in lifeguarding, you just said it, Nicole. I don't know where that play is going to happen.
Oh, we had a day one day, and I didn't
Right.
think of this till you said it. We had a lady fall down, and we had two emergencies at
At
one
the
time
same
on the pool
double.
deck. So there was more than one ball because you don't
Yes,
know what's going to
fair,
happen.
right? And who's got it? And in basketball we officiate and don't get caught watching the ball because you can foul at any time.
Yeah.
So same thing, don't get caught staring at one thing. And we practice 2 or 3 emergencies, and when we practice them, people laugh at us. No way, somebody's gonna fall off the top of the slide, and we'll have a fire in the kitchen at the same time.
Yeah.
Not only will that happen, we'll lose power.
Right.
And
Bingo right there. Put that
right, right.
bingo.
Put that on your bingo. But I think again, teammate,
Yeah.
right? When you have a resume and somebody and all the reason we're doing this podcast, somebody says, "Tell me about you as a lifeguard." One of the things you can take away from this, I think, is here's how I'm a good teammate.
Mhm.
Here, when they ask you about your football resume or your math scholarship or your church group, all that is wonderful. But none of those, I think, and I'm selfish, but I think compared to how I had to be there for somebody else in an unplanned crisis. And that's what a teammate does in lifeguarding. And so think about that at a different level, whether it's your first day lifeguarding or whether you're tired of listening to Nicole or me, probably me talk. How does lifeguard make you a better teammate? Anyway.
And we've got one more slide on our advances moving forward. So we can build on our skills. So what, I mean, obviously I'm a good scanner and it gives me leadership and responsibility and decision making. Where is that going to take me though, Wes?
I think if anybody's been listening, it's going to take you where you want to go next because you've built that foundation. It's going to take you out of the pool if you want to stay in the pool. It's going to keep you in that chair from my lifeguard instructor, my lifeguard trainer. It's going to put more letters behind your name, right? When you're young and you're hungry, you want to put as many letters, lifeguard CPR, right? Deep
Right,
water lifeguard.
right.
And
Get them
so it
all. Collect
really,
them all.
yeah.
I
And
did. I was so proud to have all my Red Cross cards when I was little.
and and you still should be. The trainer's no joke. I worked for the Red Cross. It's not, and do it while your body can handle it, folks. Take it from me. Do it while your body can take it. And that's the other piece is if you want to stay in that chair and lifeguard forever, there's awesome. How can
Yeah.
you get your O2 certification? How can you get your facility management training? That's
So
all. Anyway, yeah.
yeah, well, and I was going to challenge you on that one too. So, get more certifications. We've got obviously when you become a lifeguard, we talked about this in the beginning of our series. You have first aid, CPR. You can then become a WSI, which makes you a swim instructor. Your CPO, which Wes mentioned earlier, he also mentioned AFO. But Wes, tell me more. There's more. We know we can go into the education field, but what more can we acquire?
So one, I'll say this: beyond um, the formal certifications, there's things like you can go online and get a Code Atom, right? Code Atom is free. It's online. It helps you with missing child. You can also look at accreditations locally, working with your fire department. We mentioned CPR certification. You can become a CPR instructor. As we look at, there's several swim angelfish or total aquatic programming. There's several management certifications you can get from the Aquatics Professional Association,
Mhm.
and medical fitness has a director school where you could become a facility director. So I can go from sitting in a lifeguard chair to learning how to understand a pump room, which I personally have like 6 different pool operator certifications.
You
Pump
still
rooms are
don't
not
understand the pump room?
pub rooms are not my jam. I would rather write you a 20-page essay. But I can go from the lifeguard chair to the pump room to running my facility through education. Just through the, and again, that's not even my personal track, which is why I press it for people that's their passion. On the other side of it, I can look into special needs with the autism group. I can look into physical therapy with OTPT. So as you get further out of school, in the traditional sense, right? 4 years of college, 4 years. I think that's again, Nicole, what you're leaning to is this school never ends
Mm-mm.
if you don't want it to.
Well, you just keep learning. And I don't think, I mean, I'm sure this happens in other fields, but aquatics, you can just keep getting more certifications. You just go deeper
Yeah,
and deeper.
right, which goes back to our job plan, right? Then how does that build into a revenue cycle for you? How does that build into a community network, park districts,
Yep. And
risk
it's like what you
management?
said, you just do what you like. You just got to know where to go, but you find out what
Right.
you like, and that's the direction you take.
That's and transparently, that was the idea behind this podcast: is how can we help people that love this industry, stay in it and see that there are continued pathways for it.
Yes, and let me wrap that back up to our survey. We have a survey. It's a great
Mhm.
survey. And if you take it, you're entered to win our raffle, which is over there. I do have it. And Wes gives us stuff. I'm giving away our bag, our lifeguard bag, to one person that wins from the survey. But everybody gets a copy of Wes's rescues.
Rookies and rescues, yes,
Yes.
and that's out and available. And again, it's really taking that mindset of lifeguard and helping them understand what it's like sitting in that chair, helping them understand what it's like to miss lunch, helping them understand what happens when my heart races after I see somebody else rescue. Um, and again, tying it back to the survey as well, we've had some people fill it out. We've got some great feedback. And as you do that survey, let us know if you'd like to be involved as a speaker or a guest. If you've got content you'd like to share with us or things you'd like the world to know about as well.
Yeah, that brings us to our calls to action, which I think we mentioned both of them. You can be a guest. We're going to have guests next weekend. The survey is there. If you can't find the survey and you know Wes and I, just send us a message. We'll send it to you. It is on the website, which is navigatingneva.com. And if you go on there, I mean, you can find everything there, but I put up a page for each series that we do. So every time there's a new episode, there's a new page. And then next week, I'm not going to announce who our guests are. I have verified that they're going to be here. So I know they're coming.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to tune in to find out who they are and what we're gonna talk about.
My almost marketing major tells me that's a teaser. I have a communication major and almost triple major in marketing. I almost majored in. That's called a teaser, folks. See, look what we know there.
It
Uh-huh.
is a teaser, and we're in
Yep.
aquatics. So I mean, if their pool breaks or overflows, maybe they can't make the call, and we just throw somebody else in there last minute. So you never know. You never
That's
know.
right.
Yeah.
That's all about being in aquatics is about.
Yes. Well, that concludes our episode for tonight. So I am so glad you guys listened to us. Please follow, like, and share. We're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're obviously on Facebook. You can find both Wes and I on LinkedIn. Navigating Neva is not, but we want you to stay safe, have zero drownings, and enjoy your summer.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody.